What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I hope you like this video. This is Marrying Millions, Season 2, Episode 16. So we start off this episode with Noni and Reese. Now, Noni has taken Reese away to her beach house down in Santa Barbara. And can I tell you that that beach house is I don't know if you would technically call it a beach house because it's overlooking, it's like on a cliff. Like, the house comes out and is protruding over the side of a cliff, and like you could be sitting outside and literally be looking over a cliff. So I don't know if that's technically a beach house because you got to go to the beach, but bitch, that house is everything. Do you hear me? Oh my gosh, it is gorgeous. And of course Reese is responding the same way I would be responding, okay? Like totally in awe. And he was like, you know, when I was growing up, vacations were just like, let's go down to the campground with some tents for a couple of days just to get out of the house and just get, you know, he said this is totally different than anything I've ever really dealt with or experienced. And I feel you on that one, Reese, like, because that house, my gosh, that house was gorgeous. And so Noni decides that she's going to propose to him while they're there. So later on that night, they're having drinks outside, and she got this real cute label made up. Instead of his normal beer label, it says, "Will you marry me, Reese?" And she, you know, gives him the beer, and she's like, "I'm gonna wait and see how long it's gonna take him to see read the beer." And so she finally has to coax him into it, but he reads it, and he was like, "What?" And she was like, and then, you know, she was like, "Yeah, well, will you marry me?" And she has the ring and everything, and he gets upset. He was like, I thought we were just coming down here for a nice weekend. I didn't know this was going to be like a whole proposal. He was like, "Why are you doing this?" And she was like, "Well, what do you mean? What's the problem?" And he was like, "If I want to marry you, when I'm ready to marry you, I'll ask you myself. Like, I want to do that." It's like, you said, you know, why do you have to control everything? Why does everything have to be on your timeline and when you're ready? Like, you're taking this away from me. And she didn't seem to understand why he was upset. She was just like, "Well, I mean, it's either a yes or no answer, Reese. It's really an easy answer." And he was like, "See, this is what my family is talking about. Like, you are really controlling me. You're really controlling the situation. And this is what they're talking about. You know, and I understand exactly where he's coming from." He's like, "Listen, first of all, we haven't been dating that long, number one. Number two, I just moved into your house, which I was already hesitant about doing. And I'm not even really used to that. I'm not used to the fact that I gave up my independence to move in with you. So I really need you to, like, let's take some baby steps and let's move along." And again, I think once again we're running into the problem of when a younger person dates an older person. Like, you get to a certain point in your life where you know what you want. Like, you don't need to wait for it. You don't need to look for it. You don't need to decide. You know what you want. You know what you're waiting for. And it's ready. It's right there. So Reese gets really upset, and then Noni gets upset because she doesn't understand why he's upset, because in her mind, it's just a yes or no answer. And she was like, you know, if the answer is no, just say it's no. But I don't think the answer is no. I think it's no, but I think it's no with a caveat. Like, I don't think it's no, like, I don't see myself marrying you eventually, or I don't love you. I think it's no, not right now. You know, and I don't know if Noni wants to hear that. I don't know if she's ready to hear that, but baby. Now, Erica and Rick. Erica calls off the wedding. Her dad is not coming. She's really upset. This does not feel right to her. She said, you know, I can't go through with this with my dad, you know, because dad told him point blank he wasn't coming to the wedding. And she was like, I just can't do this. Like, I can't marry you with, I know I want my dad at my wedding. And, you know, him not giving me his blessing, like, I just can't do this. And, of course, Rick is pissed. I mean, he yells at her, and you know, he's pissed off because his thing is, again, we talking about age. He don't give a damn. He's like, "Listen, I love you. You love me. I provide a really good life for you. I get it that your dad is not 100% on board, but at the end of the day, he is still going to be your dad. So what if he doesn't come to the wedding? Look at all of the people who did come. My family's here. Your family's here. My you know, like, you're going to totally throw this whole thing away and call this wedding off because your dad don't want to come?" And he was like, "Listen, I'm not going to keep doing this." And I understand him on it. I feel where he's coming from 100%. But I do understand Erica. That's your dad. Like, I'm a daddy's girl. I can't imagine that my dad would be so upset at the person that I'm choosing to marry that they would say I'm not going. He would say I'm not coming to the wedding. I would probably have second guesses as well about going through with the wedding. I probably would. So I 100% understand that. She calls her friend and lets her friend know what happened, and asks her friend for her help. And her friend was like, girl, I'm on my way over. And he was like, no. She was like, no, I just need some time. Can you just call everybody and let everybody know that I called the wedding off and what's going on? And then we see her later on go to talk to her dad, and she lets her dad know, listen, I called the wedding off because of you. Like, you said you couldn't do it, you weren't gonna be there, and I just couldn't risk losing you. Like, I love you, you're too important to me. And he was like, ho, you were never going to lose me. I just was not on board with this marriage. You were making a mistake, and I, as your father, could not stand by knowing or feeling like this was a bad decision. You were never losing me. Now, in the interim, she ain't talked to Rick. She said Rick ain't called her. She ain't called him. And that she's going to stay in Springfield for a little while because she feel like they both need some space. Now, I think a part of her probably feel a little stupid because you could have went on through with this damn wedding and you and your daddy could have made up later. But I understand where she was coming from, and I don't know. I think this might be it with her and Rick, because Rick just, he just don't seem like he that dude. Like, child, he probably already got another Playboy bunny up in your bunk. I'm just saying. On that yacht. Kevin and damn, why I can't never remember people's name. Kevin and Katie. Now, Kevin then called his mama, and he whining to his mama about Katie, and he's like, I feel like Katie, she's kind of I think she's mad at me right now, and here's what's funny about the whole Kevin situation. Now that Katie is sort of like not up under you no more, now you're changing your tune a little bit, because now you're like, I do want to marry her. I absolutely could see us being married someday. I'm just saying right now, we just need to do other things right now. And I feel like you didn't give her that assurance. And now that you sort of feel like she's pulling away from you a little bit, you calling your mom, you asking your mom for advice. And I say this all the time, when you don't give people the whole story, you don't get the right advice. And I mean, at the end of the day, your mother's like, well, I don't think, I think she'll be okay. I don't think she's angry with you. Y'all will work things out. Yeah, because she don't know the whole story, You basically made it seem like you was going to put that girl out if, she ain't go find a job in an apartment. She found a job in an apartment, and now you're not happy with that because you don't like the job and you don't like where her apartment is. Well, what is it that you expected from her? Like, she ain't had no money. So where did you expect her to get an apartment? And what kind of job did you expect her to get in 2 weeks? Like, come on now. Even under the best of circumstances, you put in an application, it takes them a couple of days to call you back. You go in for the interview, it takes them a couple of days to get back to you. They might call you in for a second interview. Hell, sometimes they call you in for a third interview, and then you get the job. Most people ain't getting no job in 2 weeks these days. They just don't happen like that. And much less coming up with first month, last month rent, the deposit, and all that other stuff. Like, you was doing a lot, Kevin. You was doing a lot. So you call Katie over, and Katie tells you, now listen, Katie is like me. At least so far, let me say that. When you are in it, you are in it. You are 100% in it. But when you are done, baby, you are done. And Katie shows up with an attitude, and baby, she's done. And he was like, well, why you got such an attitude? What's going on? And she was like, because, like, you know what? I just feel like this ain't going to work. Like, I don't feel like we need to be together. And I think that also threw him for a loop, because I think that at the end of the day, he thought that the fact that he did have money was, because I think a part of him did think that she was with him for the money would keep her around. And she was like, this is what I need you to understand. Because he said, well, listen, let's just go away for a vacation. We'll do first class everything. We'll stay at a 5-star resort. I'll get a resort. I'll get a private jet. And she was like, see, you don't get it. This was never about money. This was never about what you could do for me. This was never about us staying first class. She said it was about you just doing the basic shit that a boyfriend should do. That's it. That's all. That's all I ever wanted. That's all I ever asked you. That's all I ever required. You were the one that turned this into something else. You know, he was like, well, I don't think there's anything I could ever do that would be a good enough for you. And she was like, see, that again, you're not getting it. Yes, you can. All I asked of you, all I wanted from you was for you to be my boyfriend and do the things that boyfriends and girlfriends do for each other. You know, she said, you basically told me I had 2 weeks to get out. Well, that's not what I said. She said, no, that's exactly what you said. Well, I mean, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant that, you know, I needed you to set some goals and set a reasonable timeline. She was like, no, that's not what you said. You said I had 2 weeks. That's not setting a goal and coming up with a reasonable timeline. That's you telling me I got 2 weeks to get out your damn house. And baby, she gets up and she leaves out of there. And even after all of that, he says, well, I think when she realizes how much she, you know, misses me, she'll be back. I don't know if she'll be back. I'm not necessarily convinced that she'll be back. I don't know, Kevin. Especially now that she's working bottle service down to the VIP, baby. I'm just saying. She might be making some good tips and meeting some nice people. That's all I'm going to say about that. Last but not least, I think that's last but not least, we have Bree and Bree and her boyfriend, child. Now remember they had the kids come over because she's trying to convince him that, you know, yes, you're 70 years old, but don't you want to be a dad again? And I mean, he knows what she's doing. He ain't stupid. And so they talk about it, and it seems like he's sort of open to the idea a little bit. And she says, you know, before we even start talking about having kids, I need to find out if you actually can have kids. Like, at the end of the day, he said, what are you talking about? He was like, I got 5 kids. Like, you know how many kids I have? She said, yeah, but you're 70 now. Like, you having kids at 70 or being able to have kids at 70 is not the same as being able to have kids at 30, 40, or even 50. You know, we know that it happens, but it's just not the same. And so she said, you know, I want us to get checked out to see if this is even a possibility before we get ourselves worked up and before we even get to trying. So they go down to a fertility clinic, and, you know, he gives them a sample, and they go over his semen, you know, count, and come to find out he's really not giving out enough for a pregnancy to be feasible. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but it's not probable without help. And of course, Bree is really upset, and I think she's upset because she really is in love with him, and that's who she wants to have a baby by, I think. But she's upset because she now realizes that it's not going to happen with him. And now I have to make a decision because I do want kids. And I want my happily ever after. I want my cake and can eat it too. And it doesn't seem like I'm going to be able to do that with him. And so she was definitely upset by it. You know, she was crying and she was really, really hurt. So that, you know, because now they got to figure out what their next move is as a couple, you know. So anyway, that's it. That's all. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in the comments. Peace.